It's my pleasure to introduce to you the recipient of the Ford Frick Award for this year, 1992, Milo Hamilton.
Mr. Commissioner, members of the Hall of Fame, how great it is to see this record crowd of returning Hall of Famers and to be with you with players who I broadcast through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and a goal to take me to the year 2000 with many more. I salute Ritter Colette, one of the great contributors to his craft, to the family of the man who exemplified the Men in Blue, Bill McGowan, to Hal Newhouser, with pleasant memories back in '45, getting up in the middle of the night in the Pacific and hearing that World Series that he pitched against the Cubs. And to Raleigh Fingers, with his Salvador Dali mustache. But unlike the artist, he painted for real. He painted corners, and his easel was home plate. And to Tom Seaver, how many pleasant memories I've had describing his remarkable feats. Always the opposition, but still a delight to behold and enjoy. I congratulate my fellow inductees here today. When you're born in Fairfield, Iowa, in 1927, the year when Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs and Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic, and then to have both of those things come back and be a part of your life later is an unbelievable story. I was connected with two of the Ruth record-breaking feats, and later, of course, flying 3 million miles in the big leagues and counting. Lindy had an effect on my life and didn't even know it. Players in the Hall of Fame all over this dais and in the bleachers behind me always had a dream, I'm sure, as young men of getting to the big leagues. As a broadcaster, I never had that dream until I was a late teenager, but I did get indoctrinated to baseball at an early age in the old country leagues in Iowa, where they played. Wasn't a field of dreams, but it really was a cow pasture. And I can remember going there with my dad as a youngster, 8, 9, 10 years old, and later playing in that league. And when you played on Saturday, the first day after they cleaned off the field, if you hit a double, the first one in the game, you slid 3 times before you found the real second base. I remember fondly of going to the games with my dad, instilled in me the love of baseball. He was a great Cardinal fan, and he gave me the first point of loyalty because when Ducky Medwick was traded to the Dodgers, I said, I'm now a Dodger fan, and he gave me a good look that I never forgot. He said, you may be a Ducky fan, but you're going to always be a Cardinal fan. And my mother, in the Depression, not a lot of money there, but somewhere she found a quarter every week for a singing lesson. I'm not saying how much that did for me to get to be a big league baseball announcer, but I've got to believe it didn't hurt. When you get to the minor leagues the first time, and you do your first ball game, and then go on the road, and then come back, and then start doing recreations, you have to thank a lot of people who helped you along the way, because in those days, you tried to make it real from an old ticker tape. The announcer on duty would stick his head in a wastebasket and do the starting lineups. He'd play the anthem in an echo chamber. And then there what was an error, I'd say, well, they're not sure yet, and then I'd go, E4. The official scorer just said it was an error on the second baseman. And then to get to the big leagues, and Ralph can remember, we did them together on the White Sox network, and you'd have a ball game where the score was 7-0 between the Philadelphia A's and the Washington Senators. And then all of a sudden you'd say, how do I keep this game interesting on a ticker for the next 2 hours? Then one team would score 5, now it's 7-5. Now they score 3, and it's 8-7. Well, you got a ball game now. 2 minutes later, across the ticker, correction. A's only scored 2 runs in the last inning. I've been saying for the better part of 4 centuries that baseball is truly the most unpredictable game in the world, and my career echoes it through and through. Going to the St. Louis Browns, we weren't on the air yet with the television station that I was joining, but watched Bobo Holloman pitch a no-hitter against Philadelphia, only weeks later to return to the minors and never come back to the big leagues. And go to the Cardinals, and can you imagine being a Cardinal fan all those years? And the day you arrive on the job, they trade Enos Slaughter to the New York Yankees. You get your heart broken and be elated all in the same afternoon. And then to be with Stan the Man when he hit the 5 homers in a doubleheader, and as Ralph told you, be lucky enough to see Nate Colbert duplicate it in '72 and interview Nate the next night and realize as we're looking at each other across that microphone that we're probably the only 2 people in the world who saw both events. 7 no-hitters, every one with its peculiarity. On the Cubs staff, when Sad Sam Toothpick Jones pitched the no-hitter in front of 4,500 at Wrigley Field on a damp, dreary day, walked the bases loaded in the 9th, and then strike out in order Grote, Clemente, and Frank Thomas. Early Wynn, with us here today, was going for his 300th at Comiskey Park against the Red Sox. 42 years old. The only problem was that a 21-year-old rookie by the name of Mambo Kett pitched a no-hitter and beat him 1-0. And in 1966, when Don Wilson no-hit the Braves, he did it with all the firepower he had. He struck out Aaron on 3 straight fastballs to preserve a no-hitter. And Kenny Holtzman pitched a no-hitter against the Braves in '79 at Wrigley Field. And Aaron hit a ball that looked like it was going over Waveland Avenue. Tom, you know the feeling. And Billy Williams gave up on the ball. He thought the ball was gone, and so was the no-hitter, and the wind was blowing in from Evanston, blew it back to Williams. He caught the ball, and the no-hitter was preserved for Holtzman. And maybe the most peculiar of all, Mike Scott pitching a no-hitter in the Astrodome in '86 to beat the Giants to win the National League West. I told you they were all different. Then to do the Maris home run by recuration, and boy, we did it. We had him come out and bow, and everybody thought we were at the ball game. And Aaron's 7/15th, and you grew up in the Depression and talked about all the records, you figured it would stand forever. Ruth himself thought it would. He thought 60 would fall because of his peers who had come close. But then to know you would do Aaron's home run and then have it happen, and then for the next 18 years hear it somewhere at least 2 or 3 days a week. Probably the most played baseball moment in baseball history. And the winners, you cannot predict winners. I was with 5, and they were all figured to finish from 5th to last. I had good trading for the last. My 3 years in the minor leagues in Davenport, we finished 8th, 6th, and 6th. I never had the heart to tell people for years that the reason we were 6th the next 2 years, 2 teams had dropped out of the league. But to thank the people who were with those winners, and the Braves in '69, how they went on when Negro won it the next to last night. Chuck Tanner took the Pirates to We Are Family in the World Series. The Cubs, when Dallas Green made the blockbuster trade and they won it in '84. '86, Hal Lanier, a rookie manager, took the Astros to the West and finished with the greatest series in playoff history, maybe, against the New York Mets, the eventual champions. And thanks to baseball broadcasters who gave me something to remember. Bert Wilson, the voice of the Cubs, who took a young broadcaster fresh out of the University of Iowa in 1950, invited me to the booth after our minor league season was over and said, "Would you like to do an inning?" Would I like to do an inning? I didn't have to take a cab back to the Loop in Chicago. I floated back. And Bob Elson, my mentor, who I had heard as a youngster in the 30s, asked me to be a guest announcer in '52. I later worked with both. I took Wilson's enthusiasm, which was endless, with the Cubs trailing 11-0 in the 9th when they came to bat. He said, "Don't leave us. This game isn't over until the last man is out." And Bob Elson, who said, "Don't forget that the game is the thing, because if there wasn't a game, they wouldn't need any broadcasters." And to Jack Brickhouse, who selected me to replace him in Chicago, If he didn't put it into perspective as to how important my job was, I don't know who did. He said, if we're forced to go out on strike because of AFTRA some week, and the garbage collectors of Chicago go out for a week, who do you think they will miss the most? The answer is sobering. And the managers, Marv Owen, you remember his tiff with Ducky Medwick in the '34 World Series? Encouraged me to try to make it to the big leagues. Al Lopez, maybe one of the greatest managers of all time, who taught me the respect for coaches, and as a result, some of my best friends to this day are the coaches who have been under managers in the big leagues. Paul Richards taught me more baseball than anybody, and I love to recite his many stories and his theories about baseball. To John McHale, who took Milo Hamilton, his bride, to dinner on the first night of their honeymoon when he was an assistant farm director of the Tigers in Lakeland, and started a friendship of 40 years. To Bill Bartholomew and John McHale, who took me to Atlanta when the Braves moved and gave me a chance to sit in the famed phrase Red Barber's catbird seat. And to Dallas Green, who went to bat for me when strike 3 had already been called in Chicago, and eventually was instrumental in getting me my job in Houston. To Dr. John McMullen, who gave me 8 wonderful years and counting. He sold the ball club recently, but I'm proud to say he flew in this morning for this ceremony, and I know he wishes, as I do, that Drayton McLean, the new owner, will carry on and that we'll have great years ahead of us. I told John the other day that he will become known as the Harry Truman of baseball owners. The longer he's gone, the better owner he will have become. Those people in the orange hats, 1,000 from the Orbiter Booster Club, and 60 of them came here today, and boy, are they having some fun, and I hope they are all right when they get back to Houston. I want to thank my broadcasters in the booth, Larry Durker, Bill Brown, Vince Cotroneo, and Bill Worrell, who have put up with a lot of nonsense in the booth the last 5 months with the media coverage, and I know they'll be glad to have just me in the booth starting again tomorrow. And thank the good kid, Hall of Famer Lou Boudreau, for his support for many years. I think with great thoughts today of my mother and father, who would have been most proud here today for their sacrifices, their support, and their encouragement. To my hometown of Fairfield, Iowa, for the friendship, the values that I was taught as a youngster, the teachers and my coaches. Grateful to special friends along the way who came yesterday into this ceremony today to see me from as far away as California, 14 states and Washington, D.C. represented in the group. And a special thanks to a hometowner, especially Charlotte Pearson Lamb, who demanded that I keep in touch with my hometown and remember my roots. And to the Don Korincic family from the White Sox ownership group, friends for 30 years, and on many occasions when I badly needed those friends. Many of you have kidded me over the years. When the schedule comes out in the fall, they want to know the open dates and the night off and where we're going to eat. They say that I know the greatest restaurants on the North American continent, and I don't disappoint them. One of those, and many of these players have talked to me about it over the weekend, was Poli's in Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh. Larry Poli was one of my greatest friends, and in May, when I saw him last, he said, "I'll see you in Cooperstown." I knew that he wouldn't. Passed away a month ago, but I'm proud to say that his wife, Dolores, and his daughter, Lisa, are here today. And how you baseball wives will appreciate this. My wife, Arlene, of over 40 years, who raised the 2 children. I see Nancy nodding. She knows what it means. And to have raised those children and how proud we are of them. She knows that I love her very much. She's the greatest friend and the greatest fan I have, and I'm glad she's here today. And to my son, Mark, here with Katie Bishop. Mark is a devoted son, but most of all, at the age of 37, when he doesn't like to hear me talk about my boy, he's not only my boy, he is my pal. And to our daughter, Pat, who is not with us today, but I hope as she watches on television later today, She'll know how much we've missed her today, how much we love her, and she'll know now more than ever how much this day meant to me. To be included in the Ford Frick Award list of Bob Elson, Jack Brickhouse, Red Barber, Mel Allen, Vince Scully, Ernie Harwell, Jack Buck, and many others. My one hope today is that in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that the man who stands in my spot today will be as proud to have his name with Milo Hamilton on the scroll in the Hall of Fame as I am to be with the gentleman I've just mentioned. I'll take this award with me and wear the banner proudly. I thank baseball. I thank my family. I thank the Hall of Famers who came today. Larry Durker says that I'm the only man that could make holy into a 5-syllable word when I say Holy Toledo after a great play or a home run. I'd have to use Oral Hershiser's scoreless innings to put the O's in holy today. Just know that's how big the day is for me. Thank you all for coming, and may God bless all of you.